Welcome to the TPC Desktop video series. In this video, we'll take a little bit deeper look at the new phrase-driven legal descriptions in TPC Desktop 2018 Release 1. I looked at this sample in the sneak peek, and I want to just open up the Traverse here for the deed record and bring that down here. We've got a neat little button. I can say I want to see just this Traverse, and Traverse BC draws just this Traverse. So you can see from the calls here that we started a quarter corner, come down to a true point of beginning, and then back around to a true point of beginning. And just to kind of introduce one more piece that I want to show for this video, I'm going to put a minus 300 foot radius curve right down here. That's actually a shoreline, and we're going to use a curve to approximate that high water line there. Okay, let's take a look at legal descriptions in a little more detail than we did before. Here's Tools, Legal Description Report, and it brings up this dialog that has all of the settings in it. And I want to just spend a little time here taking a look at this. Let's hit Preview Report so we can see the description that comes up. And I want to talk about the pieces of this just a little bit. I'm using a default template, or we call them styles in Traverse PC. And I can choose from whatever styles I make, and I can record my own, modify one of the existing ones, and do a save as. So I can have as many styles in here as I want. And the styles store the settings. So this is how I want the courses to be displayed. I want one course per line, and I'm going to number the courses, and I want to include the phrase keys. So let's say I'm done editing the phrases, and I want to take these phrase keys out. I just turn that off. I use the preview again, and see how it changes it now so that they're out. I can do the same thing with the courses. Just turn that off, hit preview. So I always can see what the description is going to look like just by turning these things on and off here and hitting the preview report. Now, Traverse PC is using the deed record for this tax lot 1300, so it's using the Traverse I've selected in this preview and letting me see what changes are going to show up in here. So let's just kind of walk down through some of these a little bit. I'm going to come into distances, and I do want to add a suffix, so I can turn that suffix on or off. Okay, I do want it turned on, but I want to put feet in there. Now, because I can make all of the legal description uppercase, I'm just going to put feet in lowercase. Okay, so now it's going to leave that in there, or I'll do sentence case maybe. Let's do feet like that. Okay, I've got the rest of the distance settings I want. For direction, I can come in and tell it I want bearing, north azimuth, or whatever, or I can tell it to use whatever the survey is set to. So if you always work in north azimuths, then go ahead and tell Traverse PC that you want to use the survey setting. Or you can override that, and I'm going to say I want bearings for this. And then these are the options we've had in the legal description writer forever. I can abbreviate degrees, minutes, seconds, or spell them out. I can pad the angles with zeros, so I can have 00 minutes, 00 seconds if I want to. If I don't turn this on, it just doesn't display them if they're zeros. And then I've got some extra bearing settings, and I've said I want an extra space in there. So I can see here that Traverse PC has left the north and the east in there because I haven't abbreviated those, but it's abbreviated everything else. Let's turn that abbreviation off, hit Preview Report, and now you can see I'm spelling out everything there. So come in and set these the way you want. These are all part of that style. So when I've got the settings I want, just come back and hit Save or Save As to create a new style. We looked at the course settings already. We include these phrase keys while you're editing phrases, because now I see which phrases are being used. I see that there's a phrase that says start line at point of commencement, and that produced everything that I see in text here to the next phrase. So if I come down to my sequence phrases, there's a start line at point of commencement. And it says, if I can look at the picture here, I've got a point of commencement, and coming out of that is a tangent course, so a bearing and distance. And I can tell Traverse PC in this phrase section how I want to display that, and it gives me an example phrase. We'll come back and look at that in just a moment. So when I look at these settings here, I can include those phrase keys to help me as I'm modifying my style for this legal description. And I can see exactly what text I'm getting when I have a particular phrase in there. So here's new arc, direction small, and here's all the text I got up to the next phrase key. So I can come into that phrase and edit that. There's some miscellaneous settings here, side shots, descriptions. I won't go into those in big detail, other than to mention that sometimes we have phrases like user ending phrase. So if I look at the sequence phrase, I can put a user ending. Because I survey in Lane County, I end my legal descriptions with all in Lane County, Oregon. So I can type in what I want here that establishes the phrase, but in the settings, I can tell it either to include that or not include it. So I'm going to say yes, I want that included. And if I hit preview, now my legal description is going to end with all in Lane County, Oregon, period. And then there are some area settings, and just like the user ending, I can include or not include the area there. But the traverse also has to be a closed loop, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So now that I've set the settings I want, I can come in and look at the phrases. So I've got a header phrase, and I want the header phrase to include a parcel name and a parcel description. So if I've got a description for that traverse, I'm going to see that. If not, I'm going to see just the name, which is what I have up here, deed record for tax lot 1300. So it got that from the traverse. That was the traverse name. Okay, and it put that in for me. I said, I want you to drop down to the next line and put in the description if it's available. Okay. Now let's take a look at a couple of the geometric phrases, and you can see that almost all of these are new line direction. New line direction, because these are just tangent courses. So I come down to the new line direction, and I say, okay, here's a description of what it is. This phrase describes a line whose direction is neither tangent nor radial to the previous course. Okay, so there's nothing about the relationship to the previous course that establishes its direction. So it's going to have a direction and distance all of its own. And then I use placeholders. So I come down and I say, thence, if I want to put in the line direction, I go up and choose line direction and insert it. So now I've got the line direction for a distance of line length. And Traverse PC is going to fill in each of these placeholders with actual values. So it's going to look like this down here. Thence north 80 east for a distance of 27 feet. Okay, so all this formatting, of course, are determined by the settings, but the line direction and line length are determined by an individual course. So each time it hits a course in the Traverse, it fills in those placeholders. And I could simply come in and say, okay, this is how I do it, but I don't say for a distance. I say just a distance. Okay, so make sure we've got just that part there. And now when I hit the preview, it says just a distance. So that's how easy it is to go ahead and edit those. You can also see that we've got a new arc direction small. So I can come down to new arc direction small, and here's everything that is included for that course. Okay, so I can go back up and look at the course here, read through that. It's going to read a lot like the example phrase down here, except these example phrases are based on the same data that created this drawing here. So in this example phrase, I've got an arc, okay, that's counterclockwise, and coming out of that, I've got a new arc direction clockwise. And so it says, when I hit a configuration like this, what should this read, or how should that be described in the legal description? So this is the data that's used to create the example phrase, but your traverse here is used to create what we're looking at here in the preview. So I can just read down through it and say, yeah, that looks good. Now, once I've edited these styles and I'm pretty comfortable with them, I'm going to go back to settings, back to courses, and turn off that include key phrases. Now I get to read the legal description like it's going to appear. And I can just read down through it, and let's just read this number 8 here. Thence north, 288 degrees and some west, a distance of 260.66 feet, to the beginning of a curve concave to the west, having a radius of 300 feet and a central angle of 24, 30, 58, and being subtended by a chord which bears north 340 and some west, 127.39 feet. And I can go back then and look at that geometric phrase, okay, which was new arc direction small, and I can then say, yeah, that's exactly how I want these legal descriptions to be written. Now, we relied pretty heavily on Waddell's book on legal description. It's kind of the Bible on legal descriptions. But you can come in and create whatever you want. And I've got another template in here that some of our Traverse PC users use. And I'm just going to pull that back up. It uses left and right, something that Waddles, it doesn't really like, it says we probably shouldn't do. But here's that same curve based on this format. Thence north, 288 and some west, a distance of 260.66 feet to the beginning of a non-tangent 300-foot radius curve to the left for an arc length of 128.37 feet. And then we've got the chord bearing and distance to the true point of beginning. So we just completely changed how we described this non-tangent arc by creating a style for it. And we did that, again, simply by going into the phrase and editing it to be what we wanted it to be. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time kind of running back through this, other than I want to drop back out of this real quick. And I want to go into this traverse and into the closure settings. And I want to just change something here. I want to change it so that it starts at point 3 and ends at point 3. And all I'm doing here is I'm telling Traverse PC that I want point 3 to be the point of beginning, just like I had labeled it here. The label doesn't make it the point of beginning. The initial point for the closure does. So now I've got 3 as my initial point, 3 as my closing point. Let's come back in and do the legal description on this. I want to just have you see the change that we're going to get out of this. Let's go back to our default. Okay, and let's preview this. And I want you to see that now we say, starting up here, and I'm going to turn off the phrases in there because I don't want you to have to fight against those here. Now you can see that we say, commencing at the point of commencement. Here's the call down to the south. And then we've got one more call east to the point of beginning. So here's the call to the south, one more call east to the true point of beginning. Then we go around the property, okay, and we do all the way back a distance of something or other to the true point of beginning. And if we want to come back in and include the user ending and the area stuff in there, we certainly can. And let's hit preview report. And I'm not sure why I didn't get an area there. I might have to recompute that. Okay, but I wanted you to just see real quick that true point of beginning and how it ends here. Now, if you don't want to include these courses in the Traverse, okay, you can also go into the Traverse properties. I'm going to go edit, Traverse properties. And Traverse PC includes a new commencement string here, so I can just go 1, 2, 3. And now this Traverse could start at the point of beginning, point 3. And Traverse PC would include this commencement string from the point of commencement to the point of beginning for me automatically. So a couple of ways for you to do those, including them inside the Traverse or just doing a commencement string like that. But I wanted you to just take a quick look at the new phrase-driven legal descriptions inside of Traverse PC. And I think you're going to find that you can pretty much create any text or style of text you want for your own legal descriptions.